rolling equity leasing.
I am
REL.
At REL, they're not just a leasing company.
We like to work with REL because
They seem to really care about us.
I am REL.
I am REL.
working with REL, it's a national company with a small town feel. REL.
REL.
I am REL.
I am REL.
I am REL.
We feel like we're working with friends. It's like you're having a beer with your buddy.
We are REL.
Hi, everybody. John Haldi here, and I'm delighted to be joined by Tim Steiner. Tim, welcome.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here, bud.
Now, for those who don't know you, Tim, you are the director of REL Solutions, correct?
Yes, sir.
And am I correct in thinking that REL Solutions is the division of REL that encompasses everything to do with maintenance and truck love?
You are 100% accurate in that statement. We do leasing, everything like that. We do all maintenance side that is meant to support the lease.
Gotcha. Well, we're here today to talk about preventative maintenance. I would love to learn a lot about that in a hurry from you. Are you game?
Fantastic. Yeah, I'm absolutely open.
So I'm an idiot. Preventative maintenance, oil changes and things like that. What's the general universe of PM that people worry about in the tractor world?
Right. So when we're talking about general overall PMs, the main basic PM that we're going to talk about is going to be a wet PM where it changes your oil and your filters. There's a lot of other PMs that are required, and PM meaning preventative maintenance. Generally, it's a term used for oil changes, things like that, but it actually encompasses a lot more than that. There's a lot of hidden PMs, different components that need to be serviced at particular intervals, and we help you identify those. It's different into each OEM, so it's important to know what truck you're actually looking to find the PM schedule.
So if I'm a new TSP and I'm trying to get my head around this, you say it's different. Does that mean oil changes and other things like that are different depending on the make and the mileage, or how does that work?
Yep, oil changes are definitely different depending on the make and mileage. Sometimes, they're going off of engine hours. Some it's just complete mileage. And some it's mileage and fuel combination that gives you different layers and service points within the PMs.
So how do I go about, I know you do this for hundreds of trucks, but I'm doing it myself. This is not an attempt to pitch you to do that, but how would you recommend to someone that they set up an effective and an optimal PM plan for their trucks?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the basic place you would want to start is the dealership that you're gaining your unit from. There's specific zones of time frames that units have been built on where they actually lay out the different PMs that are required. So for units from say 17 to 20, there's a particular PM schedule, and beyond 20 to 24, there's a whole nother PM schedule.
17 to 20 what?
The year.
The year.
2017 to 2020. Gotcha. And then, beyond that, there's other ones. Each OEM kind of has different sections, different year cutoffs, and it has to do with different PM points that they're aiming for the technology within the truck. So I would start there. You can generally get all the PMs that you require on all different service points within the unit, and then you can kind of group them together so you can hit them at particular intervals. Yeah.
I'm going to forgive me because I'm an idiot. Remember that. You got to slow down. Can I expect a dealer to give me this PM list?
It's something you will have to ask for. They generally will not just give it to you outright. You kind of have to have the intention of asking. And it's generally, each OEM has their own terminology for it, but PM schedule kind of encompasses everything. If you ask for that, you will generally get it. Some, schedules are called on-highway maintenance. There's different pieces to that.
And if I bought my truck in the used market, not from the dealer, is the dealer going to give me a hard time about giving me that?
They generally shouldn't. There's posters of these things all throughout the service, center. You'll see them on the wall if you ever go into the shop. They should have these all on file, and these are pushed directly from the OEM to each one of the dealerships in the time frame that they actually cover, right? So they should have historical files of the 17 to 20 PM schedules and different literature that was pushed out from the OEM.
Okay. And so if it's a Volvo 860 sleeper and it's a 2022, there's a sheet, does it then get granular about if it's spec'd this way or that way and you have to adjust it?
Not for the most part, because most of the main pieces that we're looking at and servicing are on every truck, right? If you get a different style of build or if a different engine, then yeah, absolutely. But for the most part, we're dealing with like model things, right? So if we're dealing with a particular engine, that family group will have PMs, and all the basic stuff is still surrounded by that, right? So like the DPF, the after treatment system, the power steering, all of these are going to be on every single unit, and they generally have intervals that are based off fluid and or filter life. So there's not a lot of variation in that, so it tends to stay the same. Where you really see the difference is between engine manufacturers and
Okay.
obviously OEMs.
You were talking when I interrupted you a little while ago, sorry, about grouping different things by looking at the PM schedule.
Yes, sir. That's kind of where the art of this comes in. It's such a pain to actually schedule in with the dealership that you don't want to go in at the exact mileage that each one of those PMs require. What you want to do is you want to find like mileage breaks that you can take where you can group PMs together and have the same effect within that specified mileage range. A perfect example is generally the second PM that's called for on almost all trucks, right? So the first one that you get is a very basic one, oil change, filters, grease, you swap all that out. The next PM actual interval will also include a lash adjustment, a power steering filter, a few other pieces that are very important to get that a lot of people don't have a general knowledge of. So it's important to know that those are coming and to group them with your regular PM so you only down the truck.
And when things don't line up perfectly, like you need an oil change in the next 1,000 miles, but the truck's on the other side of the country, better to do those kinds of things sooner, later, or is it dependent?
There's a range. What I would suggest is a lot of the OEMs are around 6,000 miles on their oil, so long as you're getting your in between grease done. So I would kind of set your reminder point at about 50 so that you can start to plan these things ahead of time. There's always going to be business challenges, and it's best to know what's coming so that you can plan your business and your routes in coordination with the mileage that you have to spare. If you do need to move in one direction, I would always recommend earlier rather than.
Do you recommend people use some sort of software to track this stuff and set up a schedule or a calendar? How do you recommend people do it on their own?
Yeah, absolutely. Most of these things are pretty basic. You can put major mileage points within them. Most PMs function off of two things, right? Either mileage in hours of the engine, or it's a time frame, right? And that's usually where we go. So it's real easy to kind of track these things in intervals so long as you've grouped them appropriately together.
Okay. And does warranty tie into this stuff? Are the things you have to do or you void the warranty or?
Not necessarily voiding the warranty, but there are different things that, can put you out if a repair happens and you haven't had them done, right? So for example, if you go in because, you threw a rod and you haven't had your engine, oil change done in a certain amount of time, they may deny that repair. Right? But you just not doing the interval in the right amount of time doesn't necessarily cancel the warranty. They just might want to prove up at the end. So you want to make sure that you have your records and you want to get this done. And it's always easiest to get some leniency from dealerships and from the OEMs on warranty pieces if you can prove all of your maintenance was done.
Okay. Now, it seems pretty straightforward. You have to be OCD, stay on top of your trucks, schedule these things and get them done. Is there more to it? Is there an art to this that experts like that someone like me wouldn't know, or is it that simple?
Well, I mean, everything's simple, once you understand it a certain amount, right? It's very easy because you can break it down to what needs to be done. The execution is where the problem really comes in, right? Because it's not as easy as knowing you need to get your PMs. It's actually coordinating people on their time off to get the unit to the shop, or having a vendor that's willing to come out and accommodate your driver's lack of wanting to go to the shop. The shop's time frames along with your business schedules, right? So you do need to get these things done. The directions are that simple. The implementation is where it really starts to get challenging.
So tell me about that. How do I, as a newbie, if I was getting into this space, how do I navigate that? What are the questions I should be asking of the places I'm going to go? I mean, do I shop for the PM work, or do I have to take it to a certain place? How does
No,
that,
I think that's a great question. I would absolutely shop this work around. If it's work that needs to get done, you're going to spend the money. Why not spend the least amount possible? There are certain things that you do want on file with the dealership. To your point earlier about the warranty, if you are your second PM level, right? If you get the lash adjustment done at a dealership, every dealership can see that that service has been done. And then there's no provability if you say you have an injector issue or something along the line. They just see that the service was done at the right interval and they proceed along the warranty line. However, the dealership is going to be the more expensive option, especially for PM work. It's very beneficial to yourself to find a local shop that will treat you right, will investigate the issues without killing your pocketbook, and do some of the more basic things for you at a much cheaper rate. The dealership is always going to be there for warranty and high-end diagnostics. As much as you can kind of move out of there, the better for you, though.
and when I get the work done at a local shop, not the dealer, do I then send the paperwork in advance to the dealer so they have it on file, or do I just keep it in case they ever contest a warranty thing?
I would only keep it. I'm a big fan of, having other people require different pieces from you versus you proving everything up front and getting holes poked in it. I would just have an expectation that you bought this warranty, that this unit needs to be serviced, and you bring it in. If there's any complications or provability on the backside of that in contention, it's okay to prove your point, but I don't think you should provide information unnecessarily.
Gotcha. And is part of the negotiation, I know it's price, but is it also turnaround time?
Turnaround time might actually be the biggest thing, depending on what kind of business you run. A few $100, $200-300 is not nearly as important as a full day of running. You know what I mean? So to kind of draw that conclusion and where you want to have these services is best for you, because it might even be a mobile vendor, right? Who actually comes out and services the units when it's down. It might be more expensive, but you might be able to keep your drivers happier. They might make their routes every time, and you don't have to worry about actual downtime at the shop. If they're coming out to you, it's going to get handled right. But it's just where you want to see the charges, right? Do they show up in business expenses by paying somebody to porter the unit, by having a maintenance person on site to transfer the unit, or a little bit higher maintenance bills?
Gotcha. So again, I'm the dodo here. What have I not asked you that if you were teaching a new TSP about how to handle PM that I should have asked you?
I think it's just more or less catching those underlying PMs that we talked about earlier and making sure that they're grouped appropriately. There's a strong inclination to look at mileage and just kind of follow mileage, but you also have to follow up on your yearly PMs and make sure that those coincide with your schedules as far as your mileage. One example would be your air dryer, right? You generally want to replace that once a year, your cartridge on that. And if you are not doing that with a PM, you actually have to down the unit or get in line at a service center in order to have just that specific PM done versus you grouping that appropriately. So I think just kind of emphasizing the points of making sure that you grab the layers of the PMs, you stack them together, and that you get that handled would probably be a place I want to put more emphasis on.
If I were running all teams and they were typically far from home, going out for a week, doing 5,000 miles, whatever it is, right? Would you be telling me something slightly different than if I was running all solos that never get more than 250 miles from my home?
Absolutely. That's a fantastic question and a great distinction, because locally you can use different vendors. You can kind of experiment. You can go and talk to them. It's a little bit of a different feel when they kind of have to look you in the eye. It's a whole different feel trying to get service from somebody who will never see you again or won't see you again for, a year. In that event, if you're out constantly on the road, I would look to partner with national brands that offer some sort of cohesive service. TA, Loves, they're going to give you a very consistent offering across the nation and give you kind of the same product really no matter where you go. Obviously, it's dependent on staff, but it's way different than trying to reach out to a mom and pop shop that kind of has their full clientele, or a dealership that has their specified customers and then kind of puts you in the back.
Now, if I have a team that comes home once a week, would you recommend that I still try to get the PM done locally in between their runs?
Locally seems to be the very best outcome because then you can give them other work too. You can start to plan your downtime for larger jobs, right? And if you're doing appropriate pre-trips, if there's something that you know is coming but it's not failing yet, there's indicators such as like spring pin bushings. You can kind of see that certain things are wearing. You can plan that downtime. It's a lengthier job, and you have a high low on that range that you will really want to minimize with your relationship with a local vendor.
Now, one TSP who runs a lot of teams told me one time, and I don't know if this is accurate, and may have just been teasing me, but they accelerate the schedule for all the different things that could break on the road, belts, filters, whatever, and they do it sooner just because they'd rather pay the extra and not have to worry that they have something nearing its end of life and it's on the other side of the country. Is that
Right.
a viable tactic?
Oh, absolutely. The P and the PM is the most important part. You want the preventative portion of this, right? If you start to miss your aim on the PM cycle, that's generally how a lot of road events happen, right? Alternators aren't charging the batteries anymore. You think you got a bad alternator, the belt might just be gone. Accelerating these PMs that you're already going to have to invest in a little bit doesn't really change the outcome of your overall cost on the PM schedule, but it can have a dramatic change in the amount of roadside events that you have. As we know, averages are built off of high and low, and you never want to run into that low end of the average, for your belt life. It's better to kind of accelerate that if you do have the ability.
Less critical if the truck's 50 miles from your home terminal, though, right?
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely.
Gotcha. Okay, well, I think that covers PM. I'm looking forward to the next topic in our series. Tim, a million thanks. For those who want to contact you, can we provide your contact information on the video when we push this out?
Yeah, absolutely. Please do. We have a rather large department. We have a solid team, and we're open to talk to people about maintenance, business, and leasing.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tim. Look forward to talking again soon here.
Absolutely. Thanks, John.